another thing I really admire and like about military's way of training is they assign you someone called your close battle buddy. If you think about it, today in tech they call like peer programming, like you have some mentor, right? But you have your own buddy, and then they kind of match it with a little bit of intersection of the interest, and it's all about now taking care of your battle buddy, not only you. Everyone who gets in, they have to do the 3 months of basic combat training. They call it BCT, regardless of what role you are getting in, even the doctors. Doesn't really matter, because I think you are first soldier, then only your occupation. So if something happens, anybody should be able to lift the weapon and fight. I think the first thing for any data science project to be successful is, they always say, the customer's pain point, right? You have to understand that pain point and then try to see project requirements, and everything comes afterward.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Data Neighbors. Really excited about our guest today. I won't, provide too many spoilers about his background, but I let him do that himself. But he's currently a senior data scientist at Microsoft. So welcome, Nirmal, to the pod. Excited to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for having me. We've been chatting, kind of like formally, informally over LinkedIn, and today, coming to a platform, I'm having a conversation. I think this is great. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Yeah, thanks for
Nirmal.
being here.
Hey, Nirmal. So nice to have you. Love your work on LinkedIn. There's just like so many things to talk about with you, and I'm so glad we have you here.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. Yeah, LinkedIn part is getting excited, and of course, I think it's not only about me, right? So if I look at it, it's surrounded by your connection, your network. So even you guys, doing the great work. So ultimately, I think we are uh, helping the community in data to save their career in one way or the other, right? So, and kudos to both of you as well. I love your contents as well.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I know it's great just being able to see people meet you live here today too. I feel like we've only interacted in comments and reactions, and now we get to see each other, hear each other's voices. Our viewers are definitely going to be really interested about your experience at Microsoft. Amazing company, leading a lot of the way in data science and AI. But I'd love to, before we get into that, like for Nirmal as a data scientist at Microsoft, who was
Yeah,
Nirmal?
for sure. I came to US 2007 for my master's. If I look back before that, I was finishing up my undergrad in Nepal. I'm originally born and raised in a small town in Nepal, and all of my college friends applied during the undergrad to come here. I also had actually application accepted from a couple of the universities. And being an elder son, one thing I lacked, from my initial career, even right off the bat from the undergrad, was finding a right guidance or the proper mentor. And I think that is probably one factor that I'm inclined to do a lot of mentorings today, just because I wanted to fill that gap or vacuum that I had in my life. So at that point, I was debating myself whether to come here for undergrad, or I got a bigger scholarship for my master's degree, the undergrad, to do in Nepal. And I started connecting to a few of my friends who are here doing the undergrad already at that point. So I would say 2003, right? So if I had came here for undergrad, the folks were saying that things after 9/11 obviously wasn't too pretty. And then uh, the challenging for international students to, study well and kind of manage the fees to pay, because most of the times us coming from the other, developing countries like Asian country or somewhere, it's kind of hard for our parents to do everything for all the semesters, right? They can probably manage for one or two, but ultimately that they have to take a student loan back home, just like what we do here. So then I started doing a lot of this calculation in my mind, like, what do I do? do I stay here? And because I had almost like a full scholarship, very, very less to pay for my undergrad there. And it was actually a good university. So
Nice.
I opted to stay there for undergrad. Uh, and I felt like left out because all of my friends were going abroad for undergrad. Uh, and if I look back, I think that was one of the wise decisions. And sometimes you just have to trust it, right? Even if other folks are not doing the same thing you're doing.
What was your undergrad in? Just curious.
So I did computer science back home in Nepal from one of the renowned university there. It's called Nepal College of Information and Technology. And after I finished that in 2007 is when I applied here and then got in master's. So that was I think the first decision making point for me. And then coming here for master's, finished my master's. It was obviously a big dream to get in tech right away, but things doesn't.
Was that also in computer science
It
or?
was my master's was in information systems, so it was kind of
Okay.
mix of some business analytics uh, plus database courses. I kind of wanted to get
I
into the
am I am
data.
an information systems
Okay,
master's as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
MSIS, right?
Nice.
Popular degree.
Yes, yes. It's like a nice balance between business
Yeah,
and like computers. It's like in
right.
between, literally in between.
Because
Hmm.
throughout the undergrad, after getting drilled and drilled on the computer science, I was thinking, let's do a little bit of the business side or something that has a good balance, like Shrabe was saying. And then I was researching about the courses, and MSIS actually was a good course. It was not too much on the tech side, but not too less that you're gonna lose the complete uh, tech, So, and I kind of wanted to build my skills relevant course background on the database as well. So it kind of worked out. 2009, I graduated. Not a good time, obviously. Very high unemployment rate, recession time. And I just had to juggle through my options. Like, what do I do? The first thing I did was probably join consultancy to help me find jobs. And I moved to, I was in East Coast, my first college. I mean, the master's degree was from New York Upstate. And few of my friends were in New Jersey, joining consultancy and doing some referral or help from the job search process. I went there. I probably stayed a week. I couldn't do that because few things. I did not know what I'm getting into, right? So I was going as a naive student that who's looking for the tech job, thinking that it's going to be easy path. But they were buying my resume to every role they can, and I'm like, my interest or my experience alignment kind of goes out of the window. That nothing matters there. So I said, this is not gonna work out for me. I cannot just build my resume that I haven't done work on.
I'm just curious, especially with people from, Asia and backgrounds like Nepal. What did you tell your parents? I'm sure they were curious what was happening, like all the way in the other part of the world.
Yeah,
Going 2009, I'm sure everyone might have heard how bad things were.
yeah, sure. So in my back home family, I think they came to my graduation actually, right? So I wanted to take them around, stuff like that, but at the same time, I was financially struggling, getting ready to find a job. Graduation, I think it was a moment of happiness and accomplishment. But I think in my mind, what I'm thinking already is from the next day, my clock starts. I need to find a job. So that kind of turbulence was already happening within me, right? So, and that was one reason when I brought them to States, So, I mean, they're all happy, like, hey, my son graduated from the great university in the US. So that's a big thing coming from a small town. But when they went back after 3 months, they don't know my situation, what I'm doing, right? So, trying to find a job still. I didn't say anything until I come across that military opportunity. And that's the only time I connected back to them and say, hey, I have come across the opportunity going into the military, and the first answer was no, come back.
Oh,
And
we have so many questions in that,
Yeah,
Nirmal. Like, how did you even get that opportunity? What went through your mind to take that as an opportunity? It's not a common path at
it's not.
all.
It's not. I would say if I look back now, I was trying to figure it out what do I do next because the job market was still pretty bad. Then I quit the consultancy option, not working out. I mean, if I don't get a job for another year, my OPT runs out. I have to leave the country. So I have a friend living in New York City, and I used to travel once in a while. One day I was with him in a subway, and then he kind of mentioned that I'm actually going through a process of employment with government. And he said, I'm not going to share any much details, but I'll share your contact information. I am almost at the end of the process, but they are currently recruiting folks if you meet all the criteria. So he gave me a actual visiting card of a recruiter. And then I came back to Poughkeepsie, which is hour and a half train ride throughout the metro. I was thinking, yeah, shall I opt for this option if it works out? I mean, I didn't even know if it works out because I hadn't reached out to the recruiter yet because it was a evening time and obviously I wanted to call tomorrow. But I was already that 1.5 hour of my train drive. I was actually 60 to 70% decided actually.
Wow.
Going in, I haven't even talked to recruiter.
Yeah.
So so you have that free time and you have the all thinking and yourself.
Yes.
Uh, I don't know what will be pros and cons at that point, but I was just thinking that this is so desperate situation right now to get a job and start my employment if I want to stay here. So I'm already inclining towards that. Next morning, I pick up phone call the recruiter, and then she says, "Yeah, if everything works out, this is a temporary program that government is running. They want people having multiple specialty. Yeah, one thing was language, multiple language. One thing was people coming from healthcare industry. So there were few specialty they're looking for. And then she said, come here with your I-94 visa information, your social security card and everything. And she gives me her recruiter office contact information. I went actually the same day, met my friend yesterday, came to back to Poughkeepsie, then called, and then same day I booked the ticket to go to New York City again. And then I went there, met the recruiter. She said, you will be qualified because I think you have to be in the States for at least 2 years, no criminal history, not leaving the US and staying outside for more than 30 days. They had some criteria. The military will get some benefit, some people, some workforce as well, because at that point, US was pretty much fighting two big wars and they needed people, right? So yeah, so I talked to her, and then, like I said, coming back to Shabbat question, I called my parents that, hey, yeah, so this is what's happening. The job market is pretty bad. They don't know much back home. Everything happens in cash. You make the money, you eat for the day, work for the next day.
Oh,
So
wow.
the global economic impact, the picturizing then and the effect of that, I didn't even have to explain much. And I said, hey, it's pretty bad. Only option I see right now, if I want to stay here, is to join military. And then my dad is like, yeah, you want to book the ticket and come back.
I can imagine because this is not a path they might have heard from their friends' kids or like cousins or whoever.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
one like goes to the US to study masters in computers and MIS and
exactly.
join military. So that's like I'm sure an entirely different thing.
If I look back, I mean that was a tough decision to make. Like, I was weighing in factors. I actually had 30 days to cancel my contract after even signing it. The whole 30 days was pretty hard, like going through the stuff. Do I do it? And then I would say ultimately I decided there's no looking back. I'm going in, and then I got my training days assigned February of 2010 because I signed my official contract around September. October month was the 2009. October was the time when I still have opportunity to pull back if I wanted to. Then November, December, obviously holiday season, so they started sending us to the training camp from next year, which
So
was
what was the military work like, Nirmal? Was it like in the office?
I thought that it will be more of a tech related role, but because of the nature of that program, you are not citizenship beforehand, right? Because you
Mhm.
go through the path and finish the training and you get your citizenship. and without citizenship, you're not allowed to work on the
data or any computer
accurate
tech stuff.
data.
Oh, interesting.
You need some clearance, right? So I was like, if I get my citizenship done, the first job would be anything they offer me. And they have given me some options, so I have to make selection that something close to admin or office type job, right? So it was a supply and logistic team where they were monitoring all the maintenance fleet. So when they say maintenance fleet, it's all the vehicles, so reporting of their parts, reordering, restocking when they have to be gone through the another cycle of maintenance. So something to do with a little bit of data.
Okay. So how does the training work? Do you do any physical training or is it
Oh yeah,
purely
yeah. Everyone who gets in, they have to do the 3 months of basic combat training. They call it BCT, regardless of what role you are getting in. Even the doctors,
oh,
doesn't really matter, because I think you are first soldier, then only your occupation. So if something happens, anybody should be able to lift the weapon and fight. So that's the mentality. So that 3 months of basic combat training is something that's mandatory. Doesn't matter what job you are in. So from uh, February, March, April, yeah, until I graduated from the basic training, I guess, around end of April. And it felt like that 3 months was forever.
oh my God. How was it like? Like, we hear all of these like really strict things, right? That you have to, like, I don't know, go through a ton
It
of
is strict,
those.
yeah. So I
When did
think
you wake
later
up
on,
and all of that?
yeah, right now, I think I'm hearing from a lot of folks that they made a lot of changes, right? So even in my time, I was somewhere in the mid mark of toughness. Right now, I heard that folks are allowed to take phones, talk to family members on the weekends, stuff like that. We were not.
The 3 months?
Like, yeah, 3 months you either exchange mails with your parents, no phone at all, and then pretty much your routine is 4 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. You get up, next day training, so it's continuously 3 months, no weekends break either. Yeah. You are actually, if you imagine you're going from a pipeline, you go in as one person, you come out as different person, extremely different person.
How did that change you, Nirmal? Like, what do you think do you think that 3 months training is here with you now?
Yeah. So it trains you for both physical and mental strength. That's both sides. We only think like if it is physical training, it's not right. So it's kind of like a mental game as well. They teach you how to build resilience, how to sustain, how to kind of fight with fear. And obviously, initially, you are thinking that this training is not for me. It's tough. A lot of people quit, and if it happens, it happens in the first 2 weeks. And so they realize that if someone passes 2 3 weeks of initial training, they will stay. So
Did you
uh,
think of quitting?
what's up? No,
Did you think?
I did not. I already played
Nice.
Oh,
the game. So
Don't make it an option.
yeah, for
Go-
me, I have some military affiliation in family. So my mother's brother, right? We call it Mama in back home. He was in Nepal military, Nepal army, and he used to take me to his base once a while, even when I was a teenager. Sometimes just volunteering me to participate in a run or do some physical activity that even if I don't choose to, he will make me do it. So I did have that little bit of military connection. And I actually remember, it's actually funny now. I think about it. In the school, when teacher asks you what are you going to become when you grow up, my
yeah.
friends were saying doctor, engineer, and I was saying going to be army. And at that point,
Oh,
now I look at it, wow. I mean, it's just so fascinating to think about it, right? It's a destiny sometimes. It's funny, but
You ever find problems or challenges in your regular work now where you're just like, this is nothing. I got through all the all the military stuff. This is nothing compared to that. Like you got all those things you did in the cookie jar already.
yeah, I think it does build that very high tolerance for sure, right? Which is actually a good part. So sometimes, I mean, I have a two-year-old boy. So my wife and me, when we have some conversations, sometimes I'm like, I don't mind if he decide to go in the military. He will learn so much, and anyone who goes in learns so much. I think the mind shift does build some tolerance. Coming back to Sean's question, I think it's the resilience, mental state, right? And when we work in the high tech roles today, get busy all the time. Sometimes you have heard negative feedbacks or something about the product or the work you did. It matters a little bit that you want to improve and do better next time. So I have that kind of tolerance where when you see the worst, storm, it's easy to handle in a way. Our trainers used to tell us, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Yeah, I'm a strong believer too, just like doing hard things
Yeah,
in your professional and personal life, and there's some switch that happens. Like, once you do enough of these hard things, you're just like, the things you thought were impossible, I can do it. You're gonna break through. You might fail a bunch of times first, but I don't know, I always think that if that person can do it, why can't I?
right.
And the only way I'm gonna figure out if I can do it is try. But if you don't start, if you don't try, even though you might fail, like it's an automatic failure, you know?
Yeah. That's one reason I see a lot of military leaders, even joining Microsoft or other big companies, even if they don't have a strict tech background, they will learn so fast. They are
Mm.
adaptive. The tech skills and other things can be learned. So I would always think in this way. If you have a very tech savvy person lack on some of these leadership skills or a lot of these personal traits, it takes longer time for that tech savvy person to build that other skills. While at the same time, if you're bringing the people who already have a leadership skill and personal traits to overcome and adapt, the learning journey will be much faster for the other person to come in and pick up the tech skills, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
and I've seen that
especially
happen quite a bit. Yeah,
yeah, especially now, tech is one prompt away, right?
yeah, you're right.
ChatGPT. But personality, oh my God, it's a lot of like all your upbringing, your circumstances you go through, and all of like for people like you who've been through tough training and like military, your character builds up on all of these things. It's pretty hard to get the right person for the leadership or the attitude that could adapt. But
Yeah,
probably tech, there could be a curriculum that you could go through and study and get there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
One question when you had this military training and when you were part of it, were there anyone from Nepal or India or anyone that you would,
yeah, yeah.
recognize faces? What was the type of people that you were around in the training with?
It was extremely diversified. It's actually amazing if I look back now. You think about it. Everyone there, every face that you meet, every person you talk, they have a story behind them, right? So they come for some reason. I came from my own region. There, I actually met someone who is from a financially very well families. They don't need to come to military. They are continuing the tradition from their grandparent to father to everyone going in. There are some people like that. Some people I met, their parents could not figure out anything else to drag him to the right path. So maybe became a victim of wrong neighborhood, using substance, stuff like that. So now they only think that going to military will change that and change him or her, right? So and some folks coming in who is wants to just establish a military career and experience. So every face, every person I met, they all have unique stories behind them, right? But the diversity, right? Not from ethnic background or anything, but that thought process of people, like you were
Mm.
saying earlier, the way our nature, our nurturing, how I am a person is attached to a lot of things that I bring in myself to that point until that minute. Like it's just like, hey, everyone meet at this point. All come from different background, different stories, and now you are a part of the team, and then like big team is 40-45, but they will break you down into 4 to 5 people team. Uh, so where you are assigned the training tasks, it is pretty amazing. And another thing I really admire and like about military's way of training is they assign you someone called your close battle buddy. They call it battle buddy, right? That system is still there. If you think about it today in tech, they call like peer programming, like you have
Yeah,
some
mentor,
mentor, right?
buddy.
So,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
you have your own buddy, and then they kind of match it with a little bit of intersection of the interest, the way that they both are, like they're not going to do it completely random. Initially, they will try to find some similarity and match you. And it's all about now taking care of your battle buddy, not only you, right? So
Oh.
it's understanding how he's or she is going through. Everyone goes through that mental disorientation for some time. At least the first month, people are just figuring out, like, is it the right thing I'm doing to myself, right? So at that point, it helps to have that battle buddy. So just to share stuff and things.
What was the hardest part for you? Was it
Uh,
waking up at 4 a.m. or the physical stuff or just staying away from
I think the
internet and
physical
phone?
stuff you get used to it, right? So your body, I mean, human body is actually beautiful. You ask whatever it will give it, you just have to
Mhm.
make it do it, right? So the physical part was obviously I used to get up on my own wish, in my own time, but then you all of that goes away. I think the mental game was challenging. So in a way, the mental game is like, is it the right thing you're doing? For me, one thing that triggered very hard was in the military. To join the service, there is no minimal education criteria. As you pass the high school, you join, right? So I'm standing with the folks who have high school graduates, and I have a master's degree. And I started questioning myself that, am I doing the right decision? At that point, still, I'm not clear if it is the right call. I'm going backward in my career. So I know the market was bad, but I am staying away from tech now, doing completely different stuff. And then if that thinking is going in my head, and after half an hour I have a big physical training, I'm okay. I'll do it. That doesn't come to my mind to bother me. But then it's just that mental climb was a little harder. In that initial 3 months, I don't even know what's going to happen, right? So, and I was not even thinking about any other risks or fear that I'll be deployed. I'll be probably going in a war or something. That kind of thing didn't came.
Hmm.
Wow, that's very
What
fascinating.
so we were talking about skills earlier. It's about how you can have all these technical skills, but you're only going to go so far with those. Like you have to have these other kind of personal skills that you've built up. Um, so it's interesting with your story because you had very strong technical background
Mhm.
in your undergraduate and graduate. Then you go to this totally different thing. You learn a total different physical, but also really high mental resilience skills. Were you keeping up with the technical skills still? Because you're obviously a senior data scientist at Microsoft now. Like, how was that transition back into that
Yeah,
world?
yeah, that's a very, very good topic or question. I think, yeah, as I said, after I finished my BCT, right, 3 months, then you are assigned for another training called advanced training, which is related to job. And after the basic training is done, it's up to the job how much time it demands for you on training. So mine was another 5 months of training that related to that, like supply, logistic, whatever my assigned job title was. Some people have longer trainings, like if they are in healthcare, uh, pharmacist or medical personnel. I met someone who had 18 to 19 months, even 20 months of the training after the basic training.
Oh, wow.
And the contract we signed, the initial contract we signed is committed for 4 years. And that 4 years does not account for the training time. So if
Oh, wow.
someone didn't know that they are signing up for the job that will require longer training, I have friends who stayed more than 6 years just because their
Oh,
training
wow.
time wasn't accounted. I mean, I got lucky because I didn't even know how much training time my the job related would be. It was probably 5 months. So my mindset was like I finish my military contract, enlistment contract, and then I get out and try to do something. So if I had picked up some job without knowing that factors, I would have probably stayed longer. But when it comes to the skills building, until the initial two training phases, I was not even thinking anything else but just clearing this checkpoints. And then After you finish all the trainings, you get your immigration sorted out, you get your naturalization done, you get a citizenship, and everything happens. And then you think about what do you want to do to better yourself or prepare yourself to go out, right? So that's one thing that because I got into the military and already had a mindset that in 4 years I'll come out and do something. I was reminding myself that I need to build something, on my own parallelly, even if this work is going on. Uh, so I used to do because I had a lot of interest in the database and I took a lot of data courses. Microsoft Access used to be some database tool, right? So
Okay. Yeah.
and trying to kind of like build some small projects on myself, or even converting all the Excel related documents that our workplace has to build in the Excel Access, because no one was even opening up the Access at all. It was there with the Office package, but no one was using it. They all used MS Word to write documents
Yeah.
or the Excel to do some numbers, right? So it felt like that's the only two tools in the package, but there are more, right? So I was just exploring myself just to do a little bit more and converting all this. I created the simple form in the Access has a form as well, which I learned myself, and then for the military members to add some inputs and then put that data in the Excel in the back end. If I think about it now, it's very simplistic and nothing, right? But at that point, it was a good learning exercise for me. So the project is small or big. That's one thing I always tell people, even my mentees, do something hands-on. So it doesn't really matter like what is the tool. Ultimately, it's building that logical thinking. Once you start doing it, you realize that things you're doing wrong, and things you're doing wrong is what teach you more. And then now, because we live in the automated tools, and like Shrabe was mentioning, like ChatGPT and stuff, that advanced tools, they handle a lot of things for us, but still, uh, that the logic building or critical thinking, that kind of skills is still important.
So did
Uh,
you get into a job right after, or how long did you take after military?
yeah, I'm coming back. So then in the second year of my military,
Wow.
I actually joined MBA, and I did an online degree with Bradman University. That is part of Chapman in I think Southern California. They were in the military base because I was stationed in California base in Fort Irwin. They wanted to come to tell the soldiers that, hey, if you want to do degree, military will cover the fees, right? So
Oh,
you
that's
don't have to
awesome.
pay anything, but you have to have some time commitment. So I signed up for the MBA. 2 years it took. Uh, if you are in the school program, you have to, when you are in the field, like the nature of that base that I was stationed.
Hmm.
We are actually training the folks before they get deployed. So we used to be in the field quite a bit. Like we like 2 weeks in a row, and then we get 2 weeks off. Then 2 weeks in a row, 2 weeks off. That was a cycle. So every 2 weeks in the field, I cannot do much, right?
Yeah.
But there was at least one weekend they allowed people who have joined the school, college, to go and do the assignments and submit it. So because in the field you may not be able to focus. So for me, it kind of worked out. Even just to get back every week, that was a luxury. I was thinking, if I want to get out in next 2 years, right, what's happening? So I started building that network connection from outside. If your goal is to leave the military and go to civilian world, you need to understand what's happening, right? So and I built some connections and I start asking questions. And then after I finished that, obviously when I get out, I didn't have a job. So I was actually married already. Right before a year I left the military. So my wife, so she didn't have the license to work as a nurse yet. So she didn't have a job either. So the 3 months left before I have to either add my contract another 3 years or 4 years to stay in military, or quit. And that was another big decision I had to make in my
Yeah.
life if I look back. Joining military was a big decision, but then I would say that decision was bigger because
Mm.
there was a lot of unknowns. I didn't know if I can get the job. I come from military, staying off the tech market for 4 years. Now I'm trying to get in. I don't know how long it's going to take to get that job. When I joined the military, it was one life. I didn't have to think about and any other factors. and your decision making process becomes crucial once you add more family factors, right?
It's
Thinking
interesting.
it's almost like going back to the same square one, but the market was better and I was more confident. I was a different person. I said I'll do it.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems like you always had like, I'm gonna get this job right after I leave. You're doing all this extracurricular stuff. Like, you could have done your full day job, and that's what you do. That's a lot already, but you're converting all these Excel files into an Access database, and you're doing your MBA on the side. So you obviously you had this vision still of something else you wanted to do. So I imagine when you got to that, what were you thinking when you got to that decision point? Like, hey, I did all this extra work. What am I going to do with that?
Yeah, I
Or
had a plan in place. I think that's one thing. When I was quitting the military to do something, I did have some good analysis done. So the thing is, I saved my terminal leave. I came to find out about that. So I was not taking much leave and saving it. So the 3 months after I get out will be on the terminal leave. So I can get out 3 months earlier than
Oh,
exactly when my service ends. So that you can buy in some time that way because you are in a paycheck until that 3 months because
Hmm.
technically you are in leave, right? So then I decided to move to San Diego because San Diego is a very military friendly town because there's people from all other Navy and Marine Corps. So there are some programs which offer you to do some skill building classes. Like New Horizon was one of them. They partner with the military folks to utilize some of the VA related education benefit to pay for the course and do the class. And during that time, one good thing that military does to the folks, and a lot of people don't know until they explore it, is if you go full time to any kind of college course or even the skill building courses that is actually approved by the VA, is they pay your housing. So that means you get a housing benefit. I will be 3 months time paid, and then I had a confidence I can do it. That's more than enough time to do it.
Nice.
Because it's much better than what my situation was, right? So this is why everything in life is relative, right? So in a month I got a job. So after leaving,
wow. Nice.
yeah. So
Nice.
it was a military contract role for 12 months of contract, but it was data analyst for cybersecurity unit of U.S. Navy, which is in San Diego, but you work as a civilian. You don't have to wear uniform or nothing. You're out of the service, right? So, but you're only going in as a contract employee. In 6 months, my work and my personality, I think, and everything kind of impressed the manager that I was a part of the contracts. She hired me as a full time. So within that first year, from having no job at all and leaving military to getting a full time role as a data analyst, was done yet. And I was still a military, another 2 months left in my paycheck too, right? So
Oh, that's
Nice.
I
Double
thought
awesome.
three
dip.
months, yeah, I get it done.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine who would have had a better background than you for that role. You've
Yeah.
got all the technical background, all the military background. That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
think that was one of the reason, like everything, all the requirement posted was extremely good fit. And then I already worked for almost 7-8 months because my contract was until 12 months. So I have to transition to full time after 12 months, right? So she already know my work ethics, working nature, and the things that I did, on my personal assessment, performance assessment. Also, they didn't hesitate to bring me on board, right? And after that, I did my final master's. That was also interesting story actually. I was
Hmm.
like, I'm done with the college. I'm not gonna go back to school anymore. I already have two masters, so that was my mentality. Then in the second year of my full-time employment as a federal employee, I came to find out about a program they do select at least 4 to 5 people every year to go to University of
Yeah.
California, San Diego, to send them to do either data science or ML related courses. When I was doing the data analyst with my uh, the federal job, I started doing learning regressions, stuff like that myself, and then quite a bit of data analysis coming to the picture and helping, everything that I've been doing. So I decided that, like, what if I can take this extra notch, like, like build more skills on top of it. So that was the mindset. And then I came to find out about that program. I applied. You go through the panel interview rounds, you make a selection from the employer, and then your application needs to be accepted by the university. So both needs to happen, and it happened. So I went to do another master's in data science, and that
Wow,
was
the
awesome.
third time.
Man.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Initially, I thought that I'll never do school again. After finishing 2 masters, I'm done. But that's why I continuous learning. It happens in different ways. I mean, we sometimes we don't decide, and the opportunity is so nice that you just move it on. So
I think before we end, Sean, we should definitely chat about data science and Microsoft. Like,
yeah.
I know probably after the masters you could have joined data scientist at Microsoft. And how has it been, Nirmal? Like, how was your day to day as a data scientist at Microsoft?
Yes, so it lot depends on the team as well. I'm a security side of the house. I am in a role where we support a lot of the internal teams for their data science projects, basically almost like internal consulting in a way. So some team have data science team and we kind of partner with them to build something. Some team do not have data science team at all, and we build everything from the scratch for them,
Oh,
and then hand it over. Today, I think being a senior data scientist, mostly the balance of these business holders interaction plus some of your IC level work, doing the actual coding, building something to deliver and meet the deadlines, plus attending a lot of meetings,
Hmm.
and those are daily rhythm of business at this point. Uh,
What was it like? I mean, you said you spent 9 or 10 years in the military or working with the Navy civilian role. Like, what was it like going into big tech? For me, I came from an international development background, and then I went into tech, and I was like, I don't know, what is UX?
mhm.
What's a product manager? What is agile? Like, I don't know what any of this stuff is, and so many acronyms people are just expected to know, and I was like, just faking it, and then now you know it all. But what was that like for you? Like, very big change.
Yeah, yeah. So I think for me, Microsoft was not the first job I got after leaving the federal
Okay.
job. I was Wells Fargo data scientist for about a year. So I did have some experience of the data science stuff. I was trying to figure out doing a data analyst as a cybersecurity analyst was completely different than looking into the same telemetry data and try to build the ML or data science on top of it. So it's actually different, right? So analysis, obviously, you try to share the story or insights based of it. At that point, I think we were owning a dashboard that monitors all the network traffic, stuff like that. So ultimately, it's playing with the data, but no other than that, like the ML approach, right? So,
Hmm.
and school helped me a lot to do some projects and think about how we build data science project stuff. But then again, there is a fine line that you cannot learn everything on the school. They try to cover surfacely a lot of different topics that may or may not be applicable, and your career might just go in one vertical, right? So you don't know what is going to be your zoom in lens at that point when you're in school. So you don't know. I wanted to build a specific skills at that point. Now I know, like, I'm in the cybersecurity. Uh, this is the domain I have built for a long time, working as an analyst, and also now I find it easy that I knew the data, even if it was not doing a data science, and now I can think about from the feature engineer aspect, from the model building aspect, what are the good data points for the ML model. It has to come from the human experience ultimately, and that is where I think you start thinking about, if I collect this data, so I collect all this, brainstorm all this feature engineering process during that, and then start building from the baseline simple model to keep trying advanced one, right? So And this is why sometimes I feel like people just slapping auto ML without understanding the domain, people without kind of sitting down with the subject matter experts and try to build a model without understanding data may not work properly, right? So the groundwork needs to happen, right? So we just see model building as one exercise in the data science journey, and it is not the only one that matters, right, in the process and the workflow. And obviously, model building is actually the simplest thing, I would say, than the other.
How'd you learn that? That like necessity to understand the user journey and all that groundwork. I feel like for me, much years of my career were spent with output of analyses where it was just, that's cool, Sean. Then nothing happened because I did not do that. I learned that through failing a million times. How'd you pick
That's
that
a very
up?
good question, actually. For me, what helped, I think, if I have to connect the dots, is when I was data analyst, I had that customer side, in me, that working that 4 years in the federal service as a data analyst for cyber defense team. Some of those things were already kind of baked in me, that these are the things they look for, they are the things they need. I think the first thing for any data science project to be successful is, they always say, the customer's pain point, right? You have to understand that pain point and then try to see project requirements, and everything comes afterwards. So that actually matters a lot in a lot of business, right? So not only in the cyber, anywhere. This is where people are like, is AI going to take my job? AI might be able to do 10%, 20% of your job, 50% of your job. But when the AI does that 50% of the job, they're going to do it fast. And that's where the benefit comes in picture, right? So yeah, I think for me, most of this stuff was maybe because I saw that customers' pain points in a way, or where they need help on that 4 years of career mostly. And uh, the problem space still remains the same. I mean, we are trying different solutions, or better solutions.
Yeah, it's just I love talking to like different people and just saying like how like very different paths, but then like just builds up like the exact like skill set you need to be successful in this
Can
role.
you think of, Nirmal, an interesting project that was the hardest to deal with and also was the most impactful? Like
Something maybe
something,
that felt like impossible.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if there is any hardest one yet, because I feel like every problem we tackle, sometimes you demand for the harder solution. So you look at the anomaly detection problem, it seems to be extremely easy, because you are just flagging something out of the normal behavior, But the biggest challenge there is to make sure that you're not turning off your critical systems just because your model think it's anomaly. Some server or database, if they see a big load today, for example, but it could be that because their user base has grown today, or they subscribe more people or something. If you just apply the flat out anomaly detector, you will find that as anomaly, which is true. The model is doing the right thing, but if it is not malicious, then you stop that. Then it might be not a good choice, right? You made. Uh, so the anomaly detection problem itself is very hard.
But it just got me thinking when you're saying you can trigger anomalies. Some of them aren't going to be malicious, uh, but I can imagine users. I've done some anomaly detection in the past, and you don't want to inundate them with all these triggers because it's basically saying like, hey, everyone, hands on deck, stop your normal job, you got to fix this thing, or kind of pointing fingers at teams like, hey, you might have broke something. I've had teams come to me through my anomaly detection and been like, hey, like years after I made it, like, hey, do we have to open this, Sev? Like, you sure this is right? I'm like, I don't know, man. I haven't worked on that model for years, but you should probably look at it. Something could be wrong, but I don't know. How have you had stakeholder interactions like that? I mean, there's just like a lot of trust that
Oh yeah,
goes into that to anomaly detection because you're disrupting work.
yes, yes. That's what I was coming to. Like, the hard problem was that building a model, then you have to do a lot of experiments to validate a model in a way that it is Accuracy is not only the one factor we look, right? So because you can't tune it for, what are you going to tune it? You're going to tune it for high recall, then you might end up getting more false positives in a way. So then the false positives are also bad. If I tell that this is anomaly, for example, this is a incident that you have to look right away, stop the things, that's like you mentioned, then it's people is spending time and cycles and saying that, hey, this doesn't look like actual anomaly, so it's false positives. Over time, if you are creating more false positives, it comes to the trust. In childhood, like we were told by our parents, I remember this story, like, hey, this tiger is coming to get the goat, right? So they always scare the tiger is not coming, right? So they always, and then the farmers used to leave everything and then and bring their goat back, I guess, like when they are getting scared by someone. So, and that someone was, what they were doing is like they just want the farmers to leave the land and then they will do other stuff. So they always scare people. So one day the actual tiger was coming, nobody cared. So it's the same thing, right? So if we flag a lot of things as false positives, there is a trade-off, and we will probably end up losing some customer trust. Uh, it's hard. And then in security, there's other factor. In fact, it makes it more harder. We have something called benign positive. So we call it false positive, false negatives in most of other domains. Like benign positive doesn't matter much. What benign positive is, a model is catching the right thing. It is anomaly. It could be malicious too, but it was done for a good intent by the red team or pen tester. It's positive, but it's benign, right? So yeah, that is the challenging part. We have to make sure that, and this is where I think when we talk about only having the model building skills, the strong data science skills, I'm expert in the PyTorch, all that things will hold true, uh, but it not suffice.
Yeah, you have to have a good understanding of other people's jobs to really be effective, which is kind of why I was asking about like what was the change to you for Microsoft, just because yeah, you're solving for totally different jobs than you were
So,
before.
Nirmal, before parting ways, do you think there is any recommendation you'd like to do for a good book that you hear here, or a good podcast, or anything you'd want to say for a recommendation?
Yeah, for the books, I think there are quite a bit. So usually the holiday seasons is the time when I read books too. You get a little bit time for yourself, and I wanted to read the books that is probably not exactly about math and ML, but maybe it will still gear me up for that kind of critical thinking. Is Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. I read it once. I think I read it too fast. Now I want to read slow. So just to give the
That's a good way to put
right.
it.
So that is one. I have it on mine, and if someone wants to look at it, it's a really good book. And then podcast. I Lex Friedman is the one, a guy who I usually follow and listen. Uh, I mean, besides all other the political stuff, his podcasts are really bringing the people from so many fields, and it's fun to hear him. I don't know about any other tech podcast that I follow. If you guys have any, suggest me.
You have your own podcast too,
And my
right?
own too, actually.
Yeah,
I
you gotta do a plug for that.
I can suggest people to listen to my Only One Outlier podcast too. I started as a side gig or a hobby and started enjoying it, bringing people from many different fields and talking to them. So I just released one today. So it's good just to chat their journey in their life in the tech, how it is blending, so things like that. The other suggestion is especially for early career or new grads, stepping into the data science field is there will be a lot of noise that may look like signals. I mean, it's hard to learn everything. Try to have your own personalized roadmap, get a mentor, network, and stick to that plan. There will be the outcome, soon. But when I was learning, I had a mentality of learn it all, and a lot of distraction come in play. I would say two half read book is worse than one full read book, right? So I would focus on one thing first. I'm happy to mentor anyone. I've been doing it for a long time. If you need any help in career suggestion or anything, please feel free to connect with me. Yeah, that's all. And thanks for having me. It's just so fun conversation. Especially my initial career, I think we went on so many directions that I never shared on anywhere that much.
Oh man, yeah. I feel like I could talk to you for like 5 more hours at least. Listening to your story was so awesome. Like, I think so many people, so many listeners, and I'm sure a lot of your mentees have gone through the same things you've gone through. What am I going to do at these different points in my career? We have to make these huge decisions, and it's so cool to see like how you had this like further off vision, but took these different routes to get there. That's just like made you such a great your career now in Microsoft, and also see you like giving back to people going through that now. I'll definitely check out it's Only One Outlier. Is that the
Yeah,
name
yeah,
of
only
the
one life.
podcast? Yeah.
It's
Also,
funny.
Awesome.
everyone, like we
Yeah,
should check out your LinkedIn as well. He's posts really good stuff, some stuff on
Hmm.
technical content, and some actually very refreshing things that we would need on LinkedIn because LinkedIn's too serious and he kind of makes
I
it
know. I try to bring
slightly,
humor too.
yeah,
Yeah, I love
So
it.
you get some laugh.
yes, yes. We love that. Thank you. Really appreciate you coming onto the podcast, Nirmal. Thank you.